Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let us introduce our group first. My name is Mirza Pagarayu and my friends are Muhammad Diko Syaputra and Muhammad Hafid Riyandi. Okay, in here we have done discuss about single subject research. Okay, the first presentation it will be presented by me. Okay, in here, a research of collecting data from a view individual. For example, researcher who wish to study children who suffer from multiple disability. In here, for example, who are both deaf and blind may have only a small number of children available to them. Okay, in here, number of available is 6 or less. It will make a little sense to form two group of 3 each in such an instance. Okay, and then each child will probably need to be observed in great detail. Okay, next it's about single subject design. In here, adaptation of the basic time series design shown the previous chapter. Okay, in here the data are collected and analyzed for only one subject at a time, and then it commonly used to study the change in behavior an individual exhibits to an exposure to an intervention or treatment of some sort. Okay, next it's about characteristic of single subject design. In the first is the graphing of single subject design. Primarily use line graphic to present their data and to illustrate the effect of the particular intervention or treatment. And then for vertical axis, it usually display the dependent or outcomes variable, and then for horizontal axis it used to indicate sequence of time. Okay, next. Okay, in here present an illustration of such a graphic in the picture. The dependent or outcome variable is displayed on the vertical axis or the ordinate or y-axis. Okay, for the horizontal axis or the abscissa or x-axis is used to indicate sequence of time such as sessions, days, week, trials, or month. Okay, next it's about the A-B design. Okay, the basic approach of researcher using an A-B design is to collect data on the same subject. It operating as her own control under two conditions or process. Okay, the first condition is the pre-treatment condition called baseline period is identified as A. The baseline is extremely important in single subject research since it is the best estimate of what would have occurred if the intervention were not applied. Okay, in here, once the baseline condition has been established, a treatment or intervention condition it's identified as B. Okay, in here, as you can see in the slide, in the picture, 5 measures were taken before the intervention and 5 more during the intervention. Look at the data. The intervention appears to have been effective. The amount of responsiveness after the intervention increased markedly. Okay, next is about the ABA design. Okay, in here in the ABA design, it will able research to simply adding another baseline period. Okay, in here too, this may improve the design considerable. Next, it's about the ABAB design. Okay, in here, in ABAB design, its two baseline period are combined with two treatment period, and then this further strengthens any conclusion about the effectiveness of the treatment, and it permits the effectiveness of the treatment to be demonstrated twice, and then in fact the second treatment can be extended indefinitely if a researcher so desirous. Okay, and then next it's the BAB design. In this design, in such cases, BAB design may be used, which involves a treatment followed by a return to the treatment, and then it usually according to time when an individual's behavior is so serves or disturbing. Okay, next it's about ABCB design. In this design, further modification of ABA design, and then C, it refers to a variation of the intervention in the B condition, and then in the first two condition, the baseline, the interpretation data are collected, and then during the C condition, the interpretation is changed to control for any extra attention the subject may have reserved during the B prasa. For the C condition, therefore, may be price given no matter how the subject responds. Next, okay, in the last design, it's about multiple baseline design. Okay, in here in the multiple baseline design, it's alternative for ABAB design. It used when it is not possible or ethical to withdraw a treatment and return to the baseline condition. In this design, when using this design, researcher do more than collect data on one behavior for one subject in one setting, and then they collect on several behavior for one subject, obtaining a baseline for each during the same period of time. Okay, I think that's all from me. The next presenter is Muhammad Iko Syaputra.
Okay, assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Here I am, the second presenter. It is about threats to internal validity in single subject research. Okay, there are several threats to the internal validity of single subject research. So let us discuss. The first is condition length. It is refers to how long the baseline and intervention condition are in effect. It is essentially the number of the data points gathered during a condition. Okay, let's see the figure 14.10. In part A, the data shown the baseline condition appeared to be stable, and hence it would be the appropriate for the researcher to introduce the intervention. And then part B, the data points appear to be moving in a direction opposite to that which is desired, and hence here too it would be appropriate for the researcher to introduce the intervention. And then part C, the data points vary greatly. No trend has been established, and hence the researcher should stay in the baseline condition for a longer period of time. And then part D, appear to be moving in the same direction as that which is desired. Okay, next. There is a number of variable change when moving from one condition to another. One of the most important consideration in single subject research is the number of variable. Introduce only one variable should be changed at the time when moving from one condition to another. Okay, for instance, consider our previous, in which a researcher is interested in determining the effect of timeout on decreasing certain undesirable behaviors of the student. Next, degree and speed of change. Let's see the data, part A. The baseline condition reveal that the data have stability when the intervention is introduced. However, the subject's behavior doesn't change for a period of 3 sessions. This doesn't indicate a very strong experimental effect. And then part B indicates there was a fairly immediate change, but that it was of small magnitude. And then in the part C, see a dramatic and rapid change. When the intervention was introduced, a researcher would be more likely to conclude that the independent variable was effective in this case than he or she would be in either of the other two. Next, return to baseline level. Okay. Let's see the figure 14.12 in the part A. This notice that in returning to the baseline condition, there was not a rapid change in a behavior. This suggests that something else may have occurred when the intervention condition was introduced. We would expect that the behavior of the subject would have returned to the baseline level fairly quickly if the intervention had been the causal factor in changing of the subject's behavior. And then for the part B, it is the change from intervention to the baseline levels was abrupt and rapid. This suggests that the independent variable was likely the cause of the change in the dependent variable. And after that, independence of behavior. The researcher defines two separate behavior that she or he going to measure. This include the first is ability to locate the central idea, and the second, ability to summarize the important points in various historical documents. The researcher obtains baseline data for each of these skills and then implements in intervention. Next, number of baseline. Number of baseline. In order to have multiple baseline design, a researcher must have at least two baselines, although the baseline began at the same time. The interventions are introduced at different times. The change that an extraneous variable causes the result when using multiple baseline design across two behavior are lessened. Since it's less likely that the same extraneous event causes the observed change for both behavior at the different times. And the last, control of threat to internal validity in single subject research. Single subject design are most effective in controlling for subject characteristic, mortality testing, and history traits. They are less effective with location data collector characteristic, maturation, and regression traits. And they are definitely weak when it comes to instrument decay, data collector bias, attitudinal, and implementation traits. Okay, I think that's all from me, and go to next presenter.
Okay, I will continue the course explanations. It's about analysis of the study. What is the purpose or the justification? Okay, the purpose is not talking about the clearly stated as such, but it's nevertheless made clear. To conduct a single case evaluation of the over justification secondary purpose. I'm sorry about the typo. Appears to be to illustrate how programmatic research can lead to productive discovery research. The latter was one reason we selected this study of review. So the justification of the study is theoretical in nature, although the focus is on the justification effect. Other theoretical concepts are discussed at length in relation to it. So the importance of this effect appears to be taken for granted. So we think supporting reason should have been presented. Okay, now about the definition. So the essential terms are over-justification effect, positive reinforcement, contingency reward, and reinforcer. These are either explicitly defined or we think adequately explained in context. The dependent variables and independent variables are operationally defined. Now we're talking about prior research. So the author provide good brief summaries of three of the most pertinent prior studies and state that the conclusion of such studies are mixed or contradictory. Research on related theoretical issues is summarized, sometimes in the general discussion section, which is appropriate because of the nature of the study. Now, now hypothesis. No hypotheses are directly stated at the outside, but it is clear that the primary one was the overjustification hypothesis itself in the context of the study delivery of an extrinsic reward will decrease the frequency of the behavior below its initial level when the reward is terminated. So this hypothesis is directional, so the authors don't state whether they predicted support for it. So and the second and third experiments tested hypothesis the effect of timeout as an interruption and of reinforced preference, also hypotheses were not stated as such. Sampelnya for the sample consisted of one 14-year-old boy with multiple special needs. He is adequately described, in our opinion. As always in single subject research, generalization to any population in the absence of replication is not defensible. Okay, that's all from us. Thank you very much, and I'm sorry if I have mistake.